Hi, my name is Megan, and welcome to episode 77 of a Naughty Mess Knitting Podcast. Welcome, friends. I am filming on January 23rd. I have some plans tonight with friends. We have dinner plans, the whole family, but hopefully I will still have the energy to edit tonight. I'm hoping to get this episode out when I normally do, midnight-ish. But if not, you'll see it sometime on Friday. I have some fun things to talk about today. Okay, so for anyone who's new, hi. My name is Megan. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I live just above Seattle, and that means literally the town above Seattle. I'm not as far as like Everett or anything else. I live with my husband Mike, our daughter Theo, our dog Winter, and my mom Cindy. And yeah, we are over here trying to enjoy the semi-nice weather. It's getting a little bit colder here, not as cold as it is like everywhere else in the US, but we have had no rain, just some chill, which does happen here in January usually. So everyone's getting all their walks in and things while we can. I am going to go through normal podcast things this week. I have a newly finished object that I'm wearing. Can you believe it? Okay, yes, obviously, because I didn't have that much to do last week. I've got finished yarn. I've got new projects and old WIPs to talk about. Just the normal stuff. I really wanted to have my fiber tracker done to talk about this week, but I still don't have some of my like final inventory in, and I wanted to record a little bit more of this yarn that I had, like a couple of these skeins at least, so I could see how the yarn part, like the fiber to yarn part would work. Like will it work well, and then go into my actual yarn tracker because they're all connected in Monday. So right now it's not ready, but I will hopefully have that done next week. So let's go. First things first, today I have a newly finished object. This is my Northwoods V Neck by Jessie Made Designs, who is on Instagram, Jessie with lots of S's, May. And I really love it. It's so cute. I was worried. Okay, so things I was worried about. I was having a bubbly neckline. I did go back and fix it this week. We can talk about that in a second. And then I was a little bit worried about yarn, but I should not have been because I have almost a whole skein left. This is long dog yarn Merino boucle DK. I don't know what she calls the base, but it's 100% superwash merino, and it's 250 yards for 100 grams. I think it's the same thing as like the Explorer Knits one, although I think that this is just washed softer than my superlative. Granted, I have not washed my superlative in a long time, so like maybe that's just from wear and stuff. I don't know. This just feels a little bit softer. I did the whole thing in this yarn. Anyway, those skeins had a little bit of overage, like a lot of hand dyed yarn. It was like almost 10% over, and this is just under 440. So I have almost a whole skein left over, which is crazy. It's broken into a couple skeins because I did helically knitting and other things like that, but I could get something else out of this, and I don't know what it would be, but maybe it'll be a hat. Because a boucle hat, like I've just been thinking about that lately. I don't know why, because I've been making a lot of hats, which is also weird. I haven't made hats in a long time. That sounds cozy. And this boucle especially is just so cozy. Okay, so I'm gonna stand up and show you, then we can talk about measurements, etc. And that'll be the order of things. Okay, now I let the camera settle. I did move it a little bit so you can see my face. Hi. Okay, so how good is this? Oh, I did another fun thing this weekend too. Okay, or when I was finishing it. So this is what it looks like on me, arms down. You can't see because I'm short, but this does go a good amount. They grew a little bit with blocking. I think they were like about here. maybe like here, pre-blocking. So I got a good like 1.5 inch growth. I didn't really intend for that, and I did not stretch these out, but I also didn't like zhuzh them back in place or anything. So they are what they are, and I don't mind it. The drop is pretty dramatic. The neckline is definitely like kind of open, but I think this V-neck is like, it's work appropriate for me. Like I would feel fine. I will wear this on meetings today, like not a big deal. I think it's fine. The helically knitting, like the helical knit, is great. You can see, I think my sleeves are a tiny bit lighter, but like overall super, super cute. Yeah, lots of room in this. I'm here as a body. So, but like, I don't feel like it looks too baggy or weird. Maybe it's a little bit because of how the drop is. It's also like, cause the sleeves are a little oversized, like just generally it feels fine. This is written as a pretty cropped top, and I did add some extra length, so we'll talk about that with measurements. But what you can kind of see here is like, you can see there's maybe a little bit more brightness here. And let's see if you can see it on the side at all. It's hard to tell. I don't think you can really tell, but I put an entire U-shaped short row section right here, right above, like 2 rows above where my ribbing is, and it's like 16 rows deep. So it's a good amount of space. So I'll tell you why, because let's look at the back of this neckline. So there are, when you build this, or when you start knitting this, you cast on all the stitches, and then you do, and Jessie May has this in a couple other patterns, you do sort of like little shoulder bumps. So you have like 2 little mountains that would be in your back. So that builds up like the back of your neckline. It's just a different way of doing short rows in your shoulders. And there's less of them, that it's not very dramatic. This is also supposed to be a striped top. So this makes sense that she doesn't want to add tons of short rows in the back because you want to keep the stripes stripey. That's like one of the versions, but that was, I think, her, you know, maybe her first intention of it. Anyway, so you build those, and then you leave some of these right here. Middle stitches are unworked, so that would be like where your neckline gets built. And so you can kind of see here, you can't really see them, but you can see where my neckline sits. Like it sits appropriately up in my back neck. It's not pulling way up on my neck or anything like that. Like it sits nicely. Okay. When I tried this on and I just had it, you know, sit nicely or whatever, I was like messing with the neckline a little bit to try to get, and you know, if I pull it down pretty dramatically, I could get the front to sort of be level with the back. But my back, this is pre short rows, my back was, you know, where you see it pre ribbing. So it was like, you know, my pants line is also right here, so like, you know, lower back, but it was way up here. And if you look at the pictures of the striped sample, you can see, actually both of the samples, there is a lift in the front. That's there. Maybe that means there's not enough short rows. I don't really know. Maybe, I don't really know, because I think the neckline sits really nicely, but just that happens with some knit tops. If you're not building bust darts in and you have bust, that this can get odd shaped in the front. Even with it being oversized, it still has to move over your breast tissue to sit, right? So you get like kind of a shelf, and then that shelf was pulling this up, and then I was having like a very dramatic high-low situation. So I thought to myself, what do I want to do here? And this was after sleeves were done, and I tried it on, and then I was sort of like, So I let it sit a night or two, and then I went back to it on like Saturday, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to solve this problem. And so I figured out, I found the middle, and I looked at it, and I did about 10 stitches on either side. And then I just did short rows. I just did German short rows across until I got about 5 stitches from the sides. So I didn't go all the way to the sides. I did to 5 stitches, and I did them in 5-stitch increments. So it ended up being like 16 rows across. So this little panel here is a U-shaped to get me even. And now I'm super even across. I'm very glad I did that. You can see it a little bit, this like, just the way that the color is moving, but I'm glad I did it, because I don't think it's super noticeable, especially with this yarn. And because of the boucle, like you can't tell that they're short rows. If this was regular yarn, you might be able to tell, and like that could be weird. And honestly, some of the gauge things and like why it fit like that could a little bit be because of the boucle. Like I've got some weird row gauge things, and it's like I have a looser tension in the body just a little bit because knitting boucle is easier than purling boucle. I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know. I'm not sure, you know, what all of the factors were. I think a little bit you can see this in the samples. So this maybe would be just a problem with the pattern in general. I do think I want to use this pattern. I really like the neckline and how it's sitting for my take it off knit, which is like this dark gray over here. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit off camera, but this was the pattern I originally wanted for that. I still think I might do it, knowing that I might actually, instead for that pattern, move to put bust shaping like right under my bust so that I can give myself, like, maybe it's a little less noticeable if it's like right under, you know, where it falls. I think I'd also maybe do that one with slightly less ease. TBD. We'll just see how I feel once we get there. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I have other V-neck patterns. I really wanted that to be a V-neck, but I like the depth of this. I do think it would be a totally different experience to knit it like just regular DK yarn. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We can't commit to anything right now. Though I do want to maybe make that while I'm doing my Sarah J. Maas reread this year. So it's very possible that it'll get on the needles sometime. So let's go through measurements really quick. I was knitting the 52-inch circumference bust. That's a size 5. I ended up with a 53 inches, just about, you know, when I measured flat across, when it's laying on the ground. The total length from shoulder to hem is 22 inches. The total length from underarm to hem is 12 inches, which is cropped on me. It still is a little bit cropped, yeah, but not really. Like, it's hitting me like 2 inches below my belly button. So like that's a comfortable, because I wear a lot of high-waisted pants, like very comfortable length for me. My arm length is 19 inches, which is a little bit long, maybe not that much longer than the pattern. I think maybe the pattern was like 17.5 or 18. But yeah, I got a little bit extra growth there. I kind of knew this too when I was doing it, just because of the way the boucle was growing and what I picked as my decreases, because I did add decreases in. So I think I did the right number of decreases for the pattern, because this is a 2x2 cuff. So you sort of have to at least stay within 4, right? Like you have to do sets of 4. I did decreases, and I just did it every like 6th row, and I used a row counter that I have like to track the rows, because there was no way to tell in the boucle. But I did do that for both sides. And then the upper arm circumference is 16 inches and the cuff is about 9.5 inches. Okay, so the other thing I remember, like, want to talk about for modifications is, so I added that piece in. I also, the way that this is constructed is you do your back, just like a lot of drop shoulders, you do your back, you pick up fronts, and then you join. Because this is a V-neck, you knit quite a lot longer. And normally you would join the V-necks and then a couple rows later or just after you join the body. This one, because the V-neck is deep and like without the ribbing, it's deep. I mean, like this is shows a lot. But it would be, because of how deep it is though, you join the underarm first and then you're knitting across and around the whole body and then joining at the V, which is fine. But because of the way my gauge was working out, etc., I ended up joining the body and then the V maybe even more rows later. Just like I was off gauge and I wanted to have enough stitches. Anyway, regardless, I actually did not complete the last 2 increases. And I don't know if they were supposed to be here or if they were supposed to be here. It doesn't matter. So I was at the end of the body 2 stitches off and decided to do decreases instead of adding 2 stitches at the BOR. And then like halfway through on the other side, I did just like a knit 2 together or purl 2 together. It doesn't really matter. And then I did the ribbing, and I did the ribbing probably the full 2.5 to almost 3 inches. That's what it looks like. And I think that because it's in boucle and also in variegated, it's not quite as apparent, the ribbing, but I still really like it in the boucle. I'm glad I didn't add another yarn in. If you watch Ariel's podcast, she also finished her Northwoods V Neck, where this is a buddy knit. So it's me, Ariel, Emily, Katie. I'm not sure how Katie and Emily are doing on theirs, but and Sylvan already has hers, same boucle, but that was her pattern that she used last year for our boucle make. And yeah, I think that on Ariel's, she used Churros con Chocolate from Explore Knits and Fibers, and that tonal, you can really see the ribbing, and it looks great in boucle on a tonal. I still think it looks great in a variegated. It's just not quite as maybe crisp looking, right? You know, it's like especially my hems and cuff, I think it's not as apparent. This you can see because you can kind of see that it's like, you know, it is a bind off. Okay, so other things to note. Anyway, so I was off 2 stitches there. That is very small modifications for this, other than adding that short rows. That was probably the biggest thing that I did differently from pattern. I also, so what was happening with my bubbliness is I did try this on. I didn't block it first. I just tried it on again when I was figuring out the hem, and this was doing crazy things over here. This was, you know, I bound off this direction, and these stitches especially were just all kinds of wonky. The gauge itself felt fine in the ribbing. It was just the bind off. And I did a crochet bind off because it was a knit like a knit bind off is what was in pattern. And that was easy to do for boucle. But this was my first bind off on the pattern, and I was being cautious or something. And I was like, I don't want to pull it too tight. Mistake, pull it tighter. Because boucle already fights you a little bit on pulling it tight. So I ended up going through with a needle and like pulling the stitches, and I did like 20-ish at a time. And I did it a little bit on this side, but I did it way more aggressively on this side, and they're pretty evenly matched now. And I got a lot of yarn out, and instead of trying to pull it all the way around or something like that, I just was pulling in one direction. So I did this way, and then I did this way. And then, so I have probably like 4 extra sewn in ends, because I would just pull until I had like quite a lot, cut it, and then just sew those ends in. It's fine. Getting sewn in in the ribbing is super easy, because I just went down the ribbing and back up, and they're secure and they're not going to go anywhere, and it looks a lot better, and I didn't have to redo the bind off, which is much better, because that would have been real annoying. And because the boucle is so sticky, like if I'd pulled them all out, I undoubtedly would have had to go back like 1 or 2 rows of ribbing and do that over. And like probably it still would have been faster to do that, but I didn't want to, so I didn't. And that's the story. So let me give you some reviews real fast here, since I like to do this while it's fresh. I'll give you a review of wearing it maybe at some point in the future. I think maybe I'll do like, I was thinking about this year, because I definitely talked about like in my tier ranking, still some of those things were super new. So I think what I might do is like go back and talk about like maybe in June or something. Maybe I'll do it, yeah, at Q2. So like that's like when I've worn a lot of my sweaters, at least. Maybe we won't do t-shirts, and just give them a review. How did they hold up? When did I grab them? How did they wear? How do they feel? Etc. So this one so far is my first day wearing it. It feels very soft. I really like this yarn. I sent a picture of this. I think that Brandy, like I put it in my story and I tagged her, from Brandy from Long Dog, and she messaged me and she was like, wow, it looks great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And I was like, I love a variegated boucle. I didn't know this is like the most amazing color. And then she was like, yeah, it was horrible to dye, because think about how much like change she would have had to do, and they're so like boucle would be even heavier, I'm sure. A lot of people do not dye boucle variegated. There are a couple other dyers that do it, but it's not as common as tonals. And so I feel like this is extra special, because you're just not going to get as many options or variety of the variegated boucle. I think all of the blues in here, it's gorgeous. I'm going to wear it a ton. It's like super a me color. I'm very, very happy about the color. I'm really happy about the fit with the modifications I made. That's why I feel like a tiny bit hesitant to use this in a regular DK, because I'm worried that it would still have that lift, and that wouldn't be as easy to solve or look as nice as it does in the boucle, because this hides all manner of sin, right? Because of the fluffiness of the yarn, you can't see any of those German short rows, etc. But I really like the neckline and how it lays, so I might adopt this into something else, or again, just do different kind of like bust shaping to get myself to the same sort of fit as this. And I would maybe not do quite as oversized in a regular yarn, but I don't know. It sort of depends on my mood when I cast it on. But pattern was really easy to read. The way that she wrote for the stripes, I think would be really helpful if you were doing stripes. It was easy to ignore that for a plain knit. Her patterns, I think, are generally like basic enough with enough instruction to get by, and they're not overly long. So I kind of enjoy just like how she writes patterns. So yeah, overall, really happy about it. So it's one I'm very happy to add to the hand knit wardrobe. Now, let's go through my next thing this week, which is finished yarn. So I don't have anything on my wheel right now, but I did finish these the other day, and I washed them and I dried them, and so now we can look at them, and they are really fluffy. So this is Cormo. This is it's untreated Cormo in the color Daydream from a Bramble Ridge fiber. Intermittently available. Like, I'm not sure if this is available now. I got this at La Mercerie at local yarn store day last year, which is in April. And it's just this really lovely, lovely dreamy color. It is this light and ethereal in person. There's pinks and blues and whites, and it's mostly just pink and blue. Like, I think there's not lots of patches of just white. You can see on this one, I have some very underspun bits. This was my third bobbin, and I shouldn't have plied them all in the same evening, and I was real over it. This is my first bobbin that I had done for plying though, and I think this one is really good. It's relatively even. I want this to be less plied and a little less spun, so it would match with the DK that I'm holding it with for my pressed flowers. And you can kind of see here, this is definitely fluffier. I mean, and it's hard because this is skeined. Here, let's do this. I shall take this out. This is Sunday Morning DK, which is 75% BFL, 25% Masham from Sonder Yarn Co. And let's fluff this baby up a little bit so you can kind of see. Definitely flatter in the DK. Like, this is so fluffy, but I think it'll be okay still together. Mine is a little bit more rounded, but do you see how like this is not overly spun? It's not a super plump yarn as much as it is, like you can really see that 2-ply in there, and I wanted this to be similar-ish. So it's really hard to achieve exactly the same when you haven't spun all of it. It's hard to achieve the same even when you have spun all of it. So that's what I was going for, and I think I did a pretty good job. I think this might be a little bit, it might be a little bit fluffier, but I think it'll knit okay. Like, I think it'll, you know, do the sort of, a lot of hand spun does, like kind of the Durham Natura route where you can knit it up a little bit at a tighter gauge or a little bit at a looser gauge, and it'll just fill the space because it's just got a little bit more air in it than a milled yarn. So yes, here we are. So this is for my pressed flowers cardigan, or my pressed flowers pullover, that I will in theory be casting on at some point. So I have 3 skeins of that. I had 3 braids, and I knew I would need most of it, so we'll just see how I got along with yardage, etc. I can modify as needed. I can also incorporate like a little bit of an extra type of yarn if I really needed to, because I don't know if that would be available again, but that's okay. I think we'll be okay. I'm kind of excited to use it, so maybe that'll jump up in my queue of things that, like, extra things I want to cast on this year. It's not on my Make 9, but that's okay. That doesn't have to be. I'm happy with it. So they'll join my hand spun yarn here and for a little bit, like a little while, to just hang out, and we'll see. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot. I had a new cast on this week that's also a finished object, and I'm going to call this finished, even though maybe I'll wash it, but maybe I won't, because I don't really like to wash hats. But I did sign up for the Ozetta North Shore Beanie test knit. I said I wasn't going to do too many test knits this year, but I'm going to kind of count these hat ones as not test knits. Like, I mean, I don't know, I'll count them in my numbers as like this was a garment test knit, because garments take a long time and hats do not. This is a pattern by Hailey Smedley, who is Ozetta. It is a bottom up triple brim beanie, and there's 2 weight options. It's basically bulky. I I think she's calling it bulky. It's like worsted with some surrey or something, or just DK. And I have opinions about both the style and the yarn that I used. So here it is completed. And this is using long dog yarn. So it's a long dog yarn week. Long dog yarn. This is the color Clan Fraser in her merino DK base. So it's 100% superwash merino. And this is the leftover, if you have been watching the channel, from my mom's cardigan, her field day cardigan last year. This is for her, it's not for me. I asked her if she wanted a beanie and she said sure. I didn't tell her what style or anything, so this is like very much not my mom's style, but also she doesn't really care. She'll wear whatever. And so this is her colors, and I had more than a skein of this, and so I thought I would try this pattern out in this yarn first. This is the opinion. Look how floppy it is. This kind of hat, and you know what? I made my Manhattan, my first Manhattan hat, and Theo's, both of them, in a superwash worsted. Those are ribbed hats, but like similar-ish style. This is a higher peak, like it's a more gradual peak, but it's taller than the Manhattan. Anyway, and this is all in stockinette. And I really like the triple brim, and I like how she did it. Why I said I would maybe block this is the construction of this is that you cast on, and then you do a folded brim, and then just like an Oslo hat or like any of the other ones that do this, when you have a triple brim, you, I really truly knit it this direction. I picked up those stitches, I knit like an inch, and then I just flipped it inside out. You do a German short row, and then you resolve it, and then you knit the rest of the hat this direction, and it creates a little garter bump that helps it stay in place, because it's not really tacked down or anything to where you want the fold to be. That's really all that it does. Why I would maybe wash it though is like you can get that fold to be like really static if you wash and block it folded, not flat. But that takes a long time to dry, and also it's my mom's hat and I don't care that much. Not that she, like, not because it's her hat and I don't care about her, but because she doesn't care. But let's look at it on. So here's my opinion about this for this yarn. This color, obviously not a Megan color, but it is, I think, like, the superwash makes it look like odder. Like, I think if it was a non-superwash yarn, it'd be a little more stiff, and so this peak would really sit more flat, and that would maybe look less weird. Though the opinion why I wanted to do this for her too is because I was not necessarily sold on this, how this peak is for myself. I'm a little bit picky in the hats that I'll actually wear. So I think maybe this goes on the, I don't know that I would make one for myself in this, but like if you knew someone who likes this style of hat, this is, the construction was super easy. It was fine to do. And I think a non-superwash yarn for sure, like for sure. I would potentially actually contemplate doing this with my leftover, I think I have enough surrey, or just like with nudiden and doing this. Like, I feel that would be a really airy, light, and warm hat to do 2 nudiden and a surrey to get the bulky gauge to do this hat. Again, I just don't know if the shaping is for me, and maybe I need to try it in something else and just like have that, and if I don't like it again, I put it in the to be gifted hat pile, which is large for me and one that I never mind growing, because I just, again, I don't really, hats are quick and easy and they're great gifts, so I don't feel very attached to them. It's not at all like building a garment for me. So using some leftover yarns to do it and try it, like, maybe could be a success for me, and maybe it could be weird still. So anyway, this is done. This was also a short test line. Test time, it's due the 30th. So I have this all weighed and measured and etc. etc. I just need to build my Ravelry page and get the comments in. Just, and I don't know what I'll do for pictures. I might take a picture of it on my mom, truly, maybe just like from the back or something, so if she doesn't want to be on my Instagram. But I mean, I might also just like lay this flat, and so you can imagine. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's just like a little bit like, I don't know, like not my favorite look. It's still better than those weird, like, where it's like a circle on the top, and I feel like that looks like a weird condom head thing. But like, this is not a whole lot better. So can you tell? I was definitely more into my other hat. And that's funny because I didn't think I liked the style of hats here in my office. But like, I am definitely more into this look on my head. But I like the Manhattan hat, so it's not exclusively. And my brownstone beanie I like too, which is in stockinette and knit the same way. Maybe it's just the way that the decreases are, or how the height, or the other things. So here we are. That's done. Let's go on to WIPs. So here is my oldest WIP currently on the needles, other than the birch, which got no work. Not intentionally. I just got distracted with other things, aka that hat. But that's fine. One day, eventually. I have to say, I have been having thoughts about the birch. And because I'm not very far in the yarn that I have, and I really do want that yarn, and I really thought I wanted that yarn for a birch, and I'm going to look at the gauge again, and I might find another pattern for that yarn in a similar style to the birch, but with a different gauge, so I'm not fighting the whole way. And I might just restart my birch with yarn I have otherwise that maybe I have, or maybe I'll just get some this year that would really be suited to it. I don't have a ton of unspoken for sweater quantities of yarn, but I have a potential one in here that I'm thinking I could use instead that would maybe just make me not feel like I'm fighting with it. I'm uncertain, so it's still in timeout, and that is okay. You are allowed to change your mind. Okay, but this week I worked on, I'm not going to talk about this a ton because I didn't really do that much. Here's where I ended last week. This is my Wool Gatherers little stitch marker. It's super cute, and I am 2 little bumps away from finishing the back pre short rows. Then you do short rows, and that's not a lot of short rows. It's like, it's 19 rows, but it's, you know, you get smaller and smaller and smaller. So I'm not really worried about that. I just need to get it done. I'm going to try to get it done tonight. But because we have a knit call with our San Francisco friends this weekend, I think on Friday, and I would like to have it done, or at least, I mean, like, connected, so I can work on something easier during the call, like work on this during the call that's without a lot of thinking. So I will try to finish this or like finish the body, do the 3 needle bind off, pick up a sleeve, or pick up the hood, pick up a sleeve. I think maybe I'll do the hood, because I do think that you need the hood done before your sleeves are done to get a good evaluation of the fit, because like the hood will affect a little bit like the drag and how heavy it is. So maybe I'll pick up the hood and start knitting it. I mean, I could also pick up a sleeve and start knitting it, do them halfway, and then do the hood. It just depends on how many balls of yarn I want attached to this at some point. But yeah, so I will finish the back, and then I will connect. And that is all that I have done on this, and we shall see what I decide to do later. You'll see next week, I guess. Okay, next thing we can talk about is half a finished object, and that is a pair of socks. I have 1 sock done, and I have no other sock on the needle because I cast this on as soon as I cast off this sock. But I did a long tail cast on, and then I realized 2 or 3 rows in that I had actually done a German short row for this sock. So I ripped it out, and I just ran. This is why you cannot run out of steam. You should really just go back and do it. I will do it today. I will just at least cast it on, finish the pink cuff, little baby cuff part, and then start through the blue, and then I can put it down and like work on some bigger stuff. But I do still want to get this done as close as I can to January. I don't know if I'm gonna like rush to get this sock done this weekend, but I mean, I might just actually even cast it on when we go over to our friend's house while we're hanging out and chatting with them. I could work on this a little bit. because this is my smallest thing to bring. But yes, so this is a women's size 7. It looks awfully small to me, but I have a big foot, and so I can't tell. But I think it'll fit, hopefully. And yeah, so this is, anyway, it ended up being super cute. So this is the Soma Sock by Summer Lee, who is Summer Lee Knits. And it's got this like very fun, it's actually like, maybe I would call it lace. It's like a lace cable. And you're just doing like a slip over, some knit stitches, and then a yarn over to make that like cute little detail. And then the cuff is ribbed 2x2 in the middle of that and on the back, and it's quite long. And then you do some flat, and this is a stockinette sole. It is a slip stitch heel, heel flap and gusset. And this is a pretty like a small, you start with a small amount of stitches for your the heel flap, which is fine. It's like maybe 2 rows more than I would normally do, but that's also fine. Just trying a new pattern. And then this one here, you have, it's mostly stockinette, but you have one every 4 rows you knit knit purl and across, and it gives this like really nice kind of, I don't even know what that is. It's almost like a waffly texture, but it's not a waffle stitch. It's like little tiny bumps. Yes, so, and it was really enjoyable to knit once I got through like the gusset. The foot went by pretty quickly, like it grew pretty quickly. And the nice thing about this, because there are the little dudes on the side, I can very easily just tell where I stopped the last one. So I don't even have to like do as much counting. You know, it's only every 4 rows because that's how long those things are. It's a 4-row repeat. So super easy, cute. This is Woolberry Sunrise. This is the women's medium. So it's 64 stitches. And I did this on a 2.25 millimeter, which is my preferred sock. Needle for the most part. I think it changes sometimes, but I like the fabric that it gives usually. It's like tight, but it doesn't feel super challenging to my hands. So yes, that is where we are. And I will finish, and then I'll have plenty of yarn left over for whatever else I want to use that yarn for. Let's go on to, and I think I'll be fine with my mini too. I'll have some left over. So, yeah, fun. Let's move on to my corner to corner blanket. This is week 2 of my corner to corner blanket, and I did a pretty good job. I wanted to do like 3 more rows than I did, but honestly, you just run out of steam sometimes on these. I told you it's this number of rows. It's a lot of little squares. It takes, you know, quite a while to get done a row. But someone did correct me. Orange is Michelangelo. And this is funny because we don't have a lot of Ninja Turtle stuff in our house anymore. Like, I mean, growing up, I feel like I did because they were super popular. But we do have one pajama set that Theo's wearing right now, like that fits her right now, that is a Ninja Turtle. And it's only one Ninja Turtle. Like, it, you know, it's got like the colors. And it is Michelangelo. And like, hi, hello. I should have remembered that. She loves those PJs. Well, you know, it's the things you remember. Anyway, I'm going into the second one here. This is like a little sword that goes down, which is, swords are really hard to do pixelated, but you know, whatever, it looks close enough. And I think this is like a little hand here or something. And then, and you can see how cute he is all together. Like, he's so cute. Okay, and then, so I have a couple of the bobbins attached here, and I have a couple of bobbins attached to my bag, but that's okay. I just don't want to pull too hard. And then this one is like one of them that has like the, I don't know, quarter staff or whatever they use to fight with, is growing up here, and we've got like a little leg. So they're kind of all facing in towards each other. And yeah, that's so cute. Okay, I forgot also how big this is. So this will get maybe 8 rows taller, so like a good amount taller. And then it's only here on the edge at the end, I have only four more squares here. So they're like offset by 2 or 3. So this is going to be like a great size for a baby blanket. I won't need to do a border, which thank goodness, I don't really want to. I really do think I'm going to run out of yarn, that green yarn, and I may run out of the gray, but I'm going to just go until I run out of it, and then I'll have to go to the store. I don't want to preemptively buy it because I don't really use acrylic for that much stuff anymore, and I don't want any more in my house. So yes. This is various acrylics though, all from my stash so far. Mostly like Red Heart, Lion Brand, Big Twist. And like the green doesn't have a label because I've had it for a while. So I'm going to need to take a scrap of that to the store when I need the green because I don't know which one it is. And I'm going to hope that I get the right one. So new cast-ons this week. I had obviously the hat cast on. That was a new one. And I used that as like my desk knit through the week other than the decreases. I did finish those last night so I could just be done with it. So I cast on my first of my Make 9 this year though. And that is my Brume. It's so light and fluffy. Like, I want you to feel this. This is like the fluffiest, nicest, fun yarn to work with. It's funny because I've worked with, you know, a couple of obviously different fluff yarns. This feels really different than like Cloud from Paisley Knits. That because of the way, even though that has fluff that puffs off of it, was not necessarily like what I would, it wasn't like comparable to a Surrey. This is really comparable to like what I imagine a DK Surrey would be, but this is more of a worsted weight and it's a little bit more of a truffula feel. And I say that because this is also Treehouse Yarns and it's got that like more puff, less hair. I don't know how to describe these things. There's not great vocabulary for it, but you can kind of see it's not, I mean, you can see definitely along the collar. It's not like tons of Surrey hair out here. It is just fluffy. And so, yeah, it's so nice. And it's like fluff around some sort of cord, right? You know, it's not just fluff on its own. It's really nice. I'm like really excited to have this. This is the color In Bloom from the Gilmore Girls collection from Treehouse Knits. I did buy this during the Gilmore Girls like re-release when she did that last year. So it's been sitting in my stash for a few months. I didn't get it until like the fall. So it was like September, maybe late September I got it. I'm so excited. This is a pretty substantial collar here, and if you look at pictures of the Brume, which I will hopefully have had flashed up before, it does sit out a little bit and up, and that's the intention. It's like sort of a funnel neck look. I'm like really excited for that. Actually, I feel like that's so cozy for this kind of thing. And then otherwise it's a raglan. So you can see I have this on really small needles right now because I just got to like, I would go up a needle size now, but also it's not bugging me that much. So I might do a couple more raglan increases and then go up like one bigger cord size, not needle size, cord size. But you can see, yeah, like right there, I have a raglan line. You'll be able to see it in this sweater. It's just not going to be like the most apparent thing ever, but that's okay. And so, yeah, it's just, it does have, you do the collar and then you have short rows in the raglan, and it's very similar to the Doppio. The way that you set your markers is you have less on the back because you're doing the short rows. You're adding more stitches to the back, and then when you finally get to the front, it evens them out, and then your front and back are even once you actually just go to the round. So I'm done all the short row shaping, and I've done a couple of raglan increases in the round, like really maybe 1 or 2. And I still have, these are 50 gram skeins, and I still have like not a lot left over, but I've got, you know, a decent amount. I only have 5 skeins of this, and this was banking on what Lauren said for her Brume sample that she made actually for the same collection. I think she might have used Smells Like Guilt and Chanel number 5. So I'm hoping that it works out yardage wise. I am making a size 4 because when I did my yardage calculation based on the weight of the yarn I have and the yards I have, if I stay on gauge, then I don't have enough for a size 5. I don't know what my first intention was. Like I didn't put down what size, I just put the number of skeins. So maybe I need to start doing that too, so I can just like recheck my math. But because it's going to be hard for me to get any more of this if I did go up size and then it was playing yarn chicken, I decided to just do a size 4, which is fine. It's not uncommon for what I've done for Andrew Mallory patterns lately. That is a finished circumference of 48 inches. So the recommended ease on this is 6 to 10 inches, and that's going to give me 1. So we're working with a different style knit. It'll just definitely be, you know, like this is 7 inches on me and is quite oversized. But like on me personally, like I wouldn't mind having this be oversized, but I'm also okay with this being more fitted. And I think how my gauge will even out, and like depending on how I'm feeling like yarn management wise, like if I feel like I have a little bit more, then I might do like 1 extra raglan increase in the body or something to just give myself slightly, like 4 more stitches would be more than an inch, you know, an inch more ish. I think that's what it would be gauge wise. So this is the Magnolia Brush Merino. It is, oh, it's the Stars Hollow collection, not Gilmore Girls, but it's 90% extra fine superwash merino wool and 10% nylon, which I think is the cord. It's 165 yards for 50 grams. So it's like a sport weight yardage wise, but the fluff factor definitely makes it knit up as like a worsted, DK worsted, heavy DK. So yeah, so I think we're gonna be okay. That's my consensus. I'll see how I feel once I get to like the end of the raglan, just like how it's sitting on me, etc. I might do those extra raglan increases. I might not. I might add a couple of stitches in the underarm and just do it that way to give myself a little bit more, which would be less depth and just a little bit more space. I like how that like raglans fit also when they're a little bit more fitted and like less big in the top. When they're too big in the top, I feel like when you put your arm down, sometimes you get like a weird armpit bloop, which just looks strange in a raglan. Anyway, so here we are. I'm really excited about this. I am knitting it has been like just really like it's so soft and nice. I think I did all of this on Monday evening, so like it went really fast. I just really haven't touched it since because I wanted to finish that hat. So we'll get through this. I imagine this will be like a 3 to 4 weeker, maybe a 4 to 5 weeker. But I don't think it'll stay on the needles very long because it's just very enjoyable to knit. Yeah, and gauge wise, you're working with like really close to a doppio, so I think it'll knit up like as fast as that. So like 3-ish weeks doesn't sound crazy to me. Let's go on to acquisitions. I did tell you I'd keep you in the know for future cast-ons. I don't know that I have another sweater cast on in the very immediate future. Though if you were one of the people who said you might want to do a sea glass cast on, I do think that will be maybe not the next one, but one after. I'm just like, I need to plan that one a little bit ahead of time. So I think I will work on getting that all ready for an early March cast on. And so in February, I may cast on one of my gift make 9s, 1 or 2 of them. And one being for my husband. I would like to get his High Lonesome on the needles soon-ish. I am waiting on getting the yarn for the main color of that, like the background color. So once I get that, I'll probably cast that on. And then I do have a hat cast on that will be coming this week though. And that maybe is the only other cast on I'll do this week. If I finish the socks, I might jump into the next pair of socks just so I can get those going quickly. But I do have a hat cast on, and that is because I got into the Northern Attitude beanie cast on, or beanie test knit for Claire Jackson. You know, I love Claire and I really love to test for her. I think it's just overall such a fun experience, and it's like such a good community vibes. This is in a bunch of weights. I think there's like a DK worsted bulky. Maybe those are the 3 options. And it's kid to adult size. And I'm actually just going to do the bulky for Theo. So she did pick out, And I don't know, maybe I'll make her two, but I do think she wants this one. I gave her a couple of options, and this is the one that she chose. So I think I'll use this one, and I might make her two, and the other one I would use would be like maybe this one, which is called, this is Mineral Sky Lovers from it's the petite wool from We Are Knitters, and I only have one skein of this, which is enough to get me a single beanie. And what I want to do is I might use this one and put on little brown faux fur, like the two, because I think that's so cute, and then do this one and make them with the pom-poms, like make pom-poms out of this yarn. So she can have a yarn pom-pom one and a fur pom-pom one, because I thought the fur would look better with this. Plus I think the yardage for the beanie is that this is like, I need a whole skein of it. And give her that option of two, because why not? She's a baby, and I'm gonna make her the child size, not the toddler size. Because she's a little bit tall and has kind of a large head, and also because then I think it'll fit her for a couple extra years, like at least another winter or two. So that is the plan. And then one other thing I may cast on this week is that Labia and Amy yarn for that other knit blanket, because I think that would be a really meditative, nice knit to have. As long as I turn the corners on this corner to corner crochet. If I do that this weekend, then maybe Monday or Tuesday I'll cast that on, and that'll be like my reward to myself, is like something different to work on. Okay, let's talk about acquisitions and then books. And I have quite a lot of acquisitions this week. So this is my our highly anticipated next group knit color. This is called Nordlies. It is so gorgeous. It's pulling, I mean, maybe that's pretty true to life. It's green. It's green, greeny teal. More teal than I thought it would be. Like I thought it was a little bit more like Kelly green color, but I am floored and excited that this is the group knit color, because I just said, please no more orange. So this is a me color. I wasn't the only one that picked this. We did a big group vote, and we decided to sport a different dyer this time, because we have done Explorer Knits for a couple of years in a row. It's not the only one that they've done for group knit. Before I was in the group, they did Ampersand Fibers and maybe one other. Anyway, so this is Azizi Textiles, and we did this from her sweater quantity library. So this was not part of like a new collection. This is an old color for her. And this is Silk Sock. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% silk, 2-ply. It is 400 yards for 100 grams, and it's a really nice feeling. And then the only actually other base that the group ordered was, like, everybody ordered either this or the natural, her non-superwash fingering. And they look really similar, actually. So all the yarn came to my house, and I am doling it out as I see people. And I'm super excited. It's really gorgeous, and I cannot wait to get it on the needles. I will do a cast on for that. Maybe when people are feeling ready in the group. We want to have it by flock, so I will definitely get something cast on by like April at the latest. But I just have not settled. I'm between patterns. And maybe I'll tell you what those options are later, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it, and that's okay. So let's talk about things I did get that I didn't necessarily need. But Erin from Back Loop Yarn and Fiber was having a January sale, and so I got in on that, because you know how I do. Anyway, I got custom colors on a couple of different new bases for her, partly because I really want to try these new bases, and some of them because I just really wanted the color. So this is Flamingo, which you may have seen me knit with before. She did a slightly different batch on this for me. It is neon. It's neon pink. It's a little bit lighter than the last Flamingo that I did. But this is also the linen DK base. So it's 50% baby alpaca, 25% silk, 25% linen to 2-ply. And it's 273 yards for 100 grams. And it's so drapey. Like, look how, it's like the floppiest yarn. It's real bright. So I got a sweater quantity for that. And I will tell you what what I have on my freeform, at least, to make for this. And again, as I'm adjusting my freeform for like the everything and pulling those in, I may change my mind as I'm building that. So my idea for this one is actually the Ebba pullover from Sorry Nordland. I'll pop a picture up here. And hers are always brown, like she just knits in brown all the time, right? And I was like, this would be a really fun version of that. And it is more lace weight than actual cables, or lace than cables, but I really just love the pattern of that, and that's a pretty newish pattern from her. Okay, the next one I got is this Alpaca Sport, which is a super fine, 80% super fine alpaca, 20% silk. It's 287 yards, 400 grams. It is sport, it's a 4-ply, but it's a heavier sport. But it is like, again, the drape of this, like not as drapey obviously as the linen, but like it's pretty drapey. And this will hopefully be a tucker by Alicia Plummer, which is a pattern that came out this fall. And it's just like a really dreamy sport weight t-shirt, t-shirt or long sleeve. And I think I got enough. I definitely got enough for a long sleeve because of the silk content in this too. I thought it would be like a good transition piece to have like a long sleeve, super drapey silk and alpaca top. Alpaca and garments equal stretch. Okay. I'm hoping the silk will keep the integrity of the garment a little bit more, but also why I want to do just like a stockinette thing so I don't have texture kind of competing and just like drooping all over the place. Okay. I have more coming from Erin also. This is half the order. The other thing I got from her is I'm actually ecstatic about this color. So because these were all custom things, what I ended up doing, and I chatted with Erin on Instagram and let her know there were some custom colors I'd want that like maybe I asked her like, hey, this is not listed on the website, but you have dyed it previously. Do you have the dye to do it in this space? And she just put up a custom order for Sylvan and I, and I did order some stuff for Sylvan too. And I put the whole order in with no base colors, and I sent her the order on Instagram, like what I wanted, and she's so great, and she just did that for us. And for this one in particular, I was like, I think this will look good on this base, but you could also change it to a different blue if you think it's not gonna look good on the base. She went with my original, and this is Seaside. This is from her summer collection last year, but it is on her yak sock. So it's 70% superwash merino, 20% yak, 10% nylon. It is a gray base. It's a 3-ply. And it is 437 yards for 100 grams. And it is really soft. This is my first yak yarn, so I'm really excited about it. It's super soft. It's super lovely. Seaside, the way that it broke on this too, it's got like a little bit of these like really dark patches too. I'm all really excited about this. Perfect color for, and it's a dark color for this, but I'm going to do another lace weight top or lace pattern top with this. And I want to do the Low Tide by Rachel Ilse. I think she's Unwind Knitwear. Anyway, I will pop that picture up too. This came out last year and I am obsessed with this pattern. I think it's just so beautiful. It's got like I think it's a saddle shoulder construction, and just like the fit, everything about it is so pretty. And the way she did this is that she did this yarn with like a possum yarn. So it has like a halo naturally. And this just is not going to have that, but it does have like the yak yarn has a tiny bit of a halo, and it just has a glow to it that I thought would be like a good replacement as opposed to getting like that yarn from Australia that I just, don't need. Okay. So I have 2 more things coming from Erin, but they just aren't here. I think that the supplier, she was a little bit behind getting some of that from the supplier. It's still within her, getting custom order things sent. But those are my really fun acquisitions for this week. Okay, I would like to talk about books now. So I read 4 books this week, and I want to talk actually about one that I have in progress because it's a biggie, but we'll talk about it in a second. So first I read The Fake Mate. So this is a Lana Ferguson book. Remember, I just read her 2 or at least 2 of her like modern romance ones, which was The Game Changer and The Nanny. And then this is The Fake Mate, which is a paranormal romance, similarly smutty, very smutty. And this is a wolf shifter one. And she went into like the whole Omegaverse. So there's an Omega shifter and an Alpha shifter and nodding and the whole thing. So if those words don't mean anything to you and you are not into smutty reads, do not read this one. If you are, very smutty, pretty fun. it it was not like surprising in how things happened really at all, but I was satisfied with the ending and the outcome and how they did that. I was into it. I liked the characters a lot. But I was into the characters and the plot was fun, and so yeah, I had a good time reading it. Okay, I read Serpent and Dove, which is Serpent and Dove #1. It's a series. I think there's 3 books. I think it's just a trilogy. By Shelby Mahurin. I don't know how you say her last name. Sorry. But this is a romantasy series. It's a little more YA. There is like a little bit of smut in it, but like not a lot. More so in the second book, but anyway, there's a lot of angst in it. And they are young. They're like maybe 20 something, so like maybe it's not YA. I'm not really sure. But it is about witches who are persecuted in a kingdom by a religious order of like witch hunters, and obviously star-crossed lovers, forced marriage. There's like a bunch of things in here trope-wise. But it was pretty fun. I thought the pacing was like a little bit odd in it. But it was okay. I think there was just, it's like here's my real thought on it, is like, I think she is trying to do some of the like surprise plot lines, but because it's a little more YA focused, either I saw them all coming, and then the things that did happen that were like shocking in the moment were like not actually that shocking to me. Anyway, it was okay. It's just there weren't that many surprises, which is fine. I don't need to be surprised while I'm reading. Clearly, I read a lot of romance novels, like not a surprise there what's gonna happen, but it was pretty good, the first one. I did jump right into the second one, and I'm in the middle of that. The pacing on that is like a little bit slower. It's just going through some second book slumps because it's like, we're trying to find allies, like, and that becomes what that happens in a lot of books where it becomes just like a little drawn out. But I can feel that it's about to pick up, so I'm still reading it. Something else came out this week which sort of derailed the reading, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I read A 5-Letter Word for Love by Amy James, and this is a book that was I don't even know. It's not highly rated. It was just on like this app I have, and it is about it's about like coworkers who end up finding that they both do Wordle, and like that becomes a bond that they have, and then romance ensues, and also there's a lot of like self-discovery. And also, like, I don't know if it was the timing of this, but like I like saw some, meme or something this week too, that, or like, some quote on who knows where, on Instagram or something, that like instead of encouraging our children to achieve big things, we should encourage them to find happiness in the small moments. And that was a really interesting thing that just happened to coincide with while I was reading this book, because this, I think, is like a thing that happens in a lot of young people, is like, you finish college, and no matter what your degree was in, you like, there's sometimes is a familiar pressure, or just like pressure you put on yourself, that you have to have some sort of life-changing job, and you have to do something big. And that sometimes wars with your values and the things that you want to do in life. Could be having a family, but you get this pressure of achieving, and whatever that means. And maybe that's having a job, maybe that's whatever. And this particular girl is going through, she like graduated a few years ago, but she's going through a find herself challenge of feeling the pressure of what she feels like she has to do versus where she's really finding happiness. And it's very interesting. And it's actually not being a homemaker, right? That's not the path that she takes or anything, but like, it's just interesting, this war of like big city versus small town, and like what making an impact is. Anyway, that was interesting to find in a love story. There was a little bit of this that was like, I felt like it was a little bit like beaten to death, that theme. And she also, like, her decision seems very flaky and dumb to me, but I thought it was like a worthwhile modern romance read. It's a little bit smutty, but not really. There's a lot more like relationship growth stuff. Yeah, and I definitely thought it was fun. I went through it really fast. Okay. The last one I read was Whisky Business, which is the first of the Macabe brothers. None of the rest are out right now, by Elliot Fletcher. And I loved it. I thought it was so good. It's like a down on her luck starlet, whatever actress, who goes back to her small town on the Isle of Skye in Scotland and has to figure out saving the whiskey business that was her grandfather's with the grumpy like whiskey business runner, like distiller runner, who lives on the property, and also maybe was her first crush, and also she was maybe his first crush, and there's just a lot of silliness that ensues. There's some heavy topics in it, and there is like good character growth, and it's just really sweet. Like it was a sweet little romance. I liked a lot of the characters. I liked how they dealt, like I liked a lot of the plot of that. I didn't find much of it that problematic. And so I definitely would read the second one because I knew what was had like around the last third, they tease you what's going to happen in the second one. And I did read like the little preview just because I wanted to see when it was coming out, and I was like, yes, I knew it. They tell you who the two characters are. So yeah, that's what I read. Okay, so in the big news of this week is the next Empyrean series came out, which is called Onyx Storm, and I'm about halfway through right now, and it's fine. I'm not going to say a lot about it because this is such a popular series, and it's not my favorite series that's been written in a while. It's not my favorite series, like character wise, but it does have like a soft spot for me because it's so fun, and the pacing, it moves quick, and like crazy things are always happening. So yes, if you read this, it's fun to read. What I will say is if you are going to read it and you have not started yet, I would recommend you at least find like a booktuber or someone who gives you a recap, because Rebecca Yarros, this is a book by Rebecca Yarros, she really drops you right into what happened, like right after. Not a lot of like, let's review what happened. It's sprinkled throughout, but not really. So you better remember the main plot points and like who people are. And I did not do that. And then I had to pause and go back, and I was like, right, now I remember where we are. But yeah, so this is one you'll hear about, all the things. I will finish it this weekend, but I was giving myself a little bit of this in bite-sized chunks, and also because some of the things I was working on, I was like, I feel like I need 10% of my brain, and this is really requiring more of my brain, the book, because there's so much stuff going on. And I had somebody ask me, and I didn't answer this comment yet, but I will. But someone said, how do you read so much in a week? And I have talked about this before, though maybe I have not in a while. I listen to pretty much all books at 2x speed. You get used to it. I'm not recommending that you do it. But I am the kind of person who I cannot listen to a book at one speed. I've never been able to. I always bumped it up a little bit. But as I just listen to more and more audiobooks, especially a lot of the romance ones, like I just don't feel that I need to be listening to them slowly. My brain moves pretty quickly, and I'd prefer the quick pacing to get through it. So if most audiobooks are somewhere around 9 to 12 hours, it only takes me 4.5 to 6 hours to finish them. So and that's, less than a season of watching TV, but also I don't watch TV really. Like Mike and I watch like one show at a time pretty slowly, and I knit for 3 to 4 hours every night. And so I usually can finish a book in an evening or an evening and a half. And sometimes I walk the dog solo and I will listen to a book. And sometimes while I'm puttering around the house, I will listen to a book like in the morning. Those are occasions in which you'll just catch me with, listening to snippets of it. But I can get through quite a lot of a book in an evening. So, and you know, and I listen on the weekends and stuff too. So I would definitely listen to half as many books if I listen to books at 1 speed. I am listening to Onyx Storm at 1.75 because the narrators speak a little bit more quickly. So if they speak more quickly and I can kind of tell what I'll be comfortable listening at, I'll bump it down or up. So that's just what you have to know. And then for this week, that's really all. Again, I'll try to have the tracker ready next week for us to talk through the fiber things and how they'll flow from one to the other. I'm sure not everybody's interested in that, but that's the thing I'll talk about. And then, yeah, I didn't have that many more tips to go through, though I will say a couple more things I'll talk to you about is some tips on ergonomic knitting and sitting and stretching we'll talk about pretty soon. And I will like to show you my knit storage in the next couple of weeks also. I'm just going to film that like additionally after an episode or before, like right before, so I can that's in my bedroom. So those are like the couple other topics that were brought up in like knit tips. Again, if you have knit tips that you want to talk about or just like knitting things you have questions on, let me know. But I will say my tip of the week is this front short row panel. I think it's possible to do in a lot of shirts. I had talked about this for my color tip tee. There's a little bit of lift there too. I think for that one, because of the way the lift is, I would alternately instead do more the right under bust, kind of like the shelf that goes this way, where as opposed to the short rows I did are the ones that go this way. And the way that you can make them go either direction to fill in space is just whether you start a small short rows and you pass over, because then you're growing sort of a hill this way. And otherwise you have short rows and then you add a little bit to them and you are, you add to them and you're going back and forth and you're making it smaller and smaller. So you're kind of making a bowl instead. So you like make a small hill, make a small bowl. I mean, either way, with something like this, it probably would have evened out about the same either way. But just because of how it was sitting, it was really sitting with the flare up right in the middle that I just felt like I would fill in space that way. You may add about the same amount of stitches, but I think it does just naturally with like how your fabric is, it will change it a little bit. So, yeah, so that's what I did. And I think that the fit is really, really good after that. So very happy. If you have questions about that or anything else, I'm available on Instagram through DMs. You can find me on our Discord channel. We do have a knit chat tomorrow. Hopefully when you watch this, it'll be Friday. So today, it'll be on the 24th at 4 p.m. Pacific. I will put this maybe on my Instagram too. I'll put a link to the Discord if anybody wants to join from there, but we will be just knitting and chatting and having a great time. There are several people who said that they would be there. Even if you didn't respond, you're obviously welcome to come. And we just sit around and chat. There's not any formal anything about it. So come with a project, come with some, things that you're working on that maybe you want to show off to us. Bring a cozy drink. I'll probably have like a nice little afternoon tea, and yeah, we'll just sit and chat. So I look forward to talking with any of you then. Yeah. And if you have not liked or subscribed, please do that. It really helps my channel for more visibility. And yeah, I always have a great time chatting with you. I hope you have a really nice day, weekend, whenever you're watching this, and that you got some good knitting in. Talk to you soon. Bye.